So I'm going to explain how you can get equal representation with approval voting and quotas. And I'm going to do that with an example. So don't have to know what each of those terms mean just yet. But let's say we have an election, and when you count the votes, B gets the most votes, so you should win, right? Well, B might not cover everybody. Say there's a number of voters, and B covers a lot of voters, but he doesn't cover all of them. So let's say B covers 5 out of the 7 voters. So these 5 are covered by B. Well, that leaves out 2 people, and those 2 people, they won't be represented at all. So to solve that problem, what you should do is you should have a second candidate. And you could have, I think there's examples where second candidates have been used in the past. You get 2 representatives for the Senate in the US. So, I mean, it's not too far-fetched to have 2 candidates. But this would be a little different because you would be basing the second candidate on those people that are unrepresented by the first candidate. What do I mean? So say the supporters for A were these 3 guys. You have A and B. And so it would be a good second candidate because he covers these 2 guys, gives them a representative, and he also covers this guy, so this guy is lucky he likes both of these candidates and he's going to be represented by both. Say C was something similar to A, but just had 2 votes, and D maybe it's just 2 kind of in the middle, and E was these 3 voters over here. So now it's good when you use approval voting because you can see that like this last voter liked these 2 candidates, and this guy in the middle liked these 2, and this guy actually liked these 3 candidates. So you can tell some interesting things with approval voting. So how do we tally this up? How do we actually count that A is the best to represent the people that were left out? Well, you can use the thing called a quota bucket, which is basically a representation of who is represented and who still needs to be represented. So a quota bucket is basically representing one block of representation. In this case, let's see, so one block of representation, if there's 2 candidates, then 2 blocks should cover the whole quota bucket. And this would be good if we had 2 blocks cover the whole quota bucket, over 3.5 people each, because there's 7 up here. So here there were 5 that are represented by this B, and so B, he spreads his representation a little bit further, so 5 over 3.5, I guess that's 10 over 7. I mean, it's not a great number, but so 7/10 is how much this quota bucket fills up with B. And now you have these people that are represented are represented up to 7/10 of what they should be represented. And they still have 3/10 that they could be further represented. So if you picked E, then you would have 3/10 times 3 is 0.9 units of representation would be how much choosing B would, or E would give. So E actually isn't all that great now, but C has 2 whole units that you could give to these 2 voters. D has 0.6 you could give. B is out, and A has these 2 plus a 0.3. So that's 2.3. And you can see 2.3 is the biggest number out of these. So you go with who has the most votes, who is able to give the most representation to those that are not represented, and that's A. So A would fit in here. Let's see. So 3 over 3.5 is, I guess, 6 over 7, or 7, 6. Okay, so that's going to be a little higher than the quota bucket. So it gives that much representation to those 2 voters. It's a little bit higher than you'd want, but I mean, they got kind of lucky. And this guy got the luckiest because he had 2 representatives, A and B, that both represent him. And being in the center has some benefits. Alright, you got A and B. So some people they kind of luck out by being in the center, but if you look at this, the difference between the different levels of representation is pretty small. I mean, compared to what it could be. I mean, you could have had B being the only representative. Then you would have some people being represented and some people not. And that wouldn't be good. I guess the quota bucket would be a little bit smaller in this case. So you would have some people getting too much representation and some people getting not enough. And that's the way we kind of do things in a lot of elections. It's winner take all, you could say, or I don't know the exact words for it. I mean, I understand elections are competitive and there's going to be winners and losers. We can still make them a little bit more fair, and that's what I'm kind of explaining here, is that you want to have everybody represented. If you're going to have a representative democracy, then you want good representatives. And you want them to need your vote, so that they will represent you. So here I just explained how you can get equal representation, or as close as it that you can get, by using approval voting and using some quotas. And I kind of explained this quota bucket as kind of a guideline for how much somebody's vote should count after somebody has already been elected, how much they could further be represented, like the ideal amount.